You've probably seen a narrative out there in the Madden community that running the ball is more difficult this year than it has been in recent years. This even in spite of the fact that they removed an old feature that was known as Read and React AI. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you guys some of the ratings that you need to be paying attention to if you want to squeeze some value out of your run game. Of course, this is going to be really important for your short yardage conversions, your goal line work, and finishing out games late when you have a lead and want to keep the clock moving. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, grab out your pen and pad. You're definitely going to need it. Let's get after it. Now, in order to explain how the run game works, we have to diagnose that there are two different types of runs in this game. There are what we call zone-based run schemes and gap-based run schemes. The primary difference between these run schemes are that when you run a stretch or an inside zone, your linemen are stepping to a side, especially on an outside zone, where they're all going to block to a side, and then they're going to block the first thing that crosses their face mask. Zone-based block schemes are very, very popular in the NFL, but you'll likely notice, and you'll see in this video, that they do struggle a little bit in Madden against certain defenses. On the flip side of the coin, we also have what are called gap-based schemes. These are blocking schemes where your offensive linemen have a target that they need to fire out and block. It does not change based off of who flashes in front of their face. It is basically this is your guy, work to them, get the seal, we'll run the ball based off of the gap scheme. So let's start off here just by taking a look at the overall ratings that go into an offensive lineman and the run scheme that you are calling. We'll start off here with my left guard, Quenton Nelson. Now, when I go over to the attributes on him, you'll see that there are key attributes, and the ones that we're going to be looking at here for the run game are RBK. This is your master run block rating. It is used in any type of run that you will call. The RBK will be involved in this. Then we have two other sub ratings that I don't even really want to say sub because they matter in a big way, all right? So we have RBP. RBP stands for Run Block Power. This is a rating that is involved when you choose gap-based run schemes. RBF over the years has changed in what it actually means. It used to be called, I believe, Run Block Footwork or Run Block Finesse. It is basically the rating that is used on a zone-based run scheme. So when you take a look at Quenton Nelson, he's pretty evenly balanced across the board. He's got an 86 master run block rating. He's a little bit better at blocking gap-based schemes than he is zone-based schemes. Let's take a look at my starting center, Elgton Jenkins. He is a little bit more of a pass protector archetype, so he's going to skew higher as a pass blocker, and his run block ratings are going to skew lower than what we just saw with Quenton Nelson. Namely, his overall run block rating is an 82, and he blocks zone-based runs at an 82 rating. He blocks gap-based runs at an 80 rating. So that is not really that good if you're trying to run a dive right behind your center and he's one-on-one with a nose tackle. That's going to get him beat in a lot of cases. And honestly, probably not going to be good when you're trying to veer an inside zone off of either shoulder of that center based off of the pursuit of the defense because run blocker. But if you had to choose one of the two, he's going to block in zone better than he is in gap-based or man-to-man based run schemes. For this reason, depending on what my down and distance is and my overall intent with a play, I actually find it useful to platoon my players. And there are two different types of platoons. Let's go back to Quenton Nelson. We notice that he is a pretty good run blocker. He's got an overall, like we said, of 86 with an 87 for gap schemes and an 85 for finesse schemes. As a pass protector, he's also not really bad. I've got him kimmed up a little bit to kind of close that gap. He does come in with an overall pass block rating of 85. But you'll notice for me specifically, I do have a backup left guard. That is the core elite Joe Thuney. And the reason that I utilize him is not only is he a Bear for my Bears theme team, but he actually skews higher as a pass blocker than he does as a run blocker. So if I'm ever in a situation late in a ball game, I will make sure that Quenton Nelson is in the game if I have a lead. But if I need to get going and I got to throw, I actually trust Joe Thuney a little bit more as a pass blocker, even though he skews lower as a run blocker. Conversely, if I am going to run the ball with Joe Thuney, I'm better off running zone, inside zone stretch, because he's an 84-85 if I call a zone-based block scheme. He's an 84-81 if I were to call a gap-based run scheme. We'll get to which runs you can call for those different types here momentarily. The other platoon that I like to utilize is my Jenkins Marquise Pouncey. Much like I just kind of explained with Quenton Nelson and Thuney, where Nelson is an okay pass protector that is a good run blocker, and Thuney's more of a pure pass protector for me, Jenkins is a pure pass protector as well. And if I need to run the ball late in a ball game, I like to make sure that I have someone that can run the schemes that I want to better. Now, right now in Ultimate Team, there's not a lot of options. You can go with Creed Humphrey, who's pretty strong as well, but I've opted to have Marquise Pouncey, who is an affordable backup for me, who comes in with 86 run block, which is considerably higher than what Jenkins is providing me. And he is better in both the zone-based run schemes with an RBF of 85 and gap-based run schemes with an RBP of 84. So overall, this is where we are right now. If you guys are watching this down the road in the MUT season, you know, November, December, even into January, February, you're gonna just skew what I'm telling you towards the current available items in the game. We aren't gonna be talking mid 80s. We're gonna be talking probably, you know, mid to high 90s later on in the season. So depending on when you're watching this, make sure that you take that into account. And while I am loading up practice mode, if you wouldn't do me a favor here, make sure you guys open up another tab and head over to my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. Gridiron Game Plans has been on the forefront of Madden tips since I opened it in 2020. I've been doing strategy tips across the community for a long time, but I am not prouder at any point in my life than what I've accomplished already in just the first month of Madden 26. If you guys are looking to stay on top of all the metas in the game, the Vault is where you're going to learn what the pro players are doing and how to counter it. But not only just what the pro players are doing, we've been setting a lot of metas right now on Gridiron as well. With our Minnesota Vikings offensive game plan, I just finished the ACE content in that, giving you 3 full game plans in one. Not only just my bunch tight end offense, which I think the Minnesota playbook has the best bunch tight end in the game, but they also have the best tight Y off scheme in the game with their tight Y off and Y off week. I have another game plan install in the Minnesota game plan specifically for those formations. And when you want to throttle down and finish games heavy, I've got the ACE install on the website. This game plan is over 50 videos that will help you guys move the ball on any front, whether you want to do it through the air with the RPO game or with the pure run game. So make sure you guys go check that out. I also have my nickel wide game plan, the original nickel wide in the Madden 26 community. It's a very popular defense right now. You guys could go learn the best way to run it, what stunts to call, what stunts beat what offensive formations, and what coverages you can call, which we will give you from our match coverage Bible. The best part about the match coverage Bible is if you already have a formation you like, you don't want to convert to nickel wide, you will still get value out of the coverage tips that are in our coverage Bible. So make sure you guys go check that out. It is the best deal in the tip space. Now back to the video. So let's get going here. We're going to talk about what types of runs utilize these ratings we just talked about. So when you guys click the run concept, it's going to open up a bunch of other tabs that you can start to call. This begins right here with power runs. So power runs are going to be your power O's, your power G's, anything named base, and also duo. These are some of the best runs in the game, bar none. Absolutely some of my favorites and really, really good in the Minnesota Vikings offensive playbook. Inside zone, pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be where your zone weeks, your inside zone, your zone splits will all live, as well as some of your window dressing, pre-snap motion handoffs to the running back. These are all inside zone-based runs. These will be utilizing that RBF rating that we were just talking about, while the powers will be utilizing the RBP ratings that we were just talking about. When it comes to counters, these are another man-to-man or gap-based scheme. Counters, very similar to powers, will oftentimes pull a lineman and the quarterback will turn to one side, but the run is going away. That is why it's called a counter. You end up with the quarterback trying to get the backer flow to one side, but the handoff is going the other direction, compared to a power where the quarterback will turn and the run is going that direction. Okay, so a lot of the whole power O counter thing comes down to what way the quarterback turns, which shoulder they turn off of, because that actually can, in a lot of cases, dictate how the backers fill. Sometimes you get low play recognition backers in the game that will jump to the wrong side against a counter, and that's why the counters have actually been pretty solid over the last couple of years, even though they've been underused by a lot of players. Draw based. Now these are different. These use pass protection because the offensive line is dropping back, selling a pass, and it's a delayed handoff. So we're going to ignore those here just for a little bit, even though these are good runs. ISOs. These are gap based blocks where you are oftentimes going to have a lead blocking fullback. We'll get into what goes into those here momentarily, but this is definitely an RBP run. Outside zone. Pretty self-explanatory. It's got zone in it, uses RBF. These are your stretches, your off tackles, anything labeled outside zone, obviously. So you see wide zone, outside zone, same difference. Stretch is another name. Again, off tackle, another name for a wide zone. These are all outside zone calls. Sweeps. These are going to vary, okay? We have two different types of sweep calls. We have a zone toss, which gives away which rating matters. This is zone-based toss. Doesn't usually have a pulling lineman for what it's worth. And then we have gap-based toss. Those will be your crack tosses, things called sweep, where you have a pulling lineman. Those are going to be the ones that give away whether or not you are using the RBF or RBP. So on halfback zone toss out of the strong close, that's RBF. On Z close toss, where you can visually see lineman pulling, that is going to use RBP. Strong toss on the goal line is a little bit weird. I do believe that one to be an RBP rating, despite not having a pulling lineman. You guys can test for yourself on that. It is a good run, especially if you get people really trying to load up against sneak and fullback dive. That's the only time I really call strong toss out of goal line. But as you go through here, the left play call, halfback zone toss, RBF. The middle play, crack toss, RBP. I form close, halfback zone toss, RBF. You get it. Trap calls. Trap calls are RBP runs, and you will also have a pulling lineman. All these will designate a defensive lineman that we're not going to block. A lineman will pull and kick him out. This is gap based. So again, RBP rating, and we'll get into some of the other stuff for the pulling lineman here momentarily. And then of course we have jet sweeps. These are zone based, usually going to be inside zone or outside zone blocking. Sometimes you will see the offensive line block opposite of the jet sweep, kind of selling a zone run away while the jet sweep goes the other direction. Sometimes they will actually block outside zone in front of the jet sweep, but these are going to be RBF runs. So we covered every single run style. Let's go ahead and put them on the field here so you guys can see them in practice. And we're going to start off with one of my absolute favorites here, which is going to be the halfback base. I think power runs in this game are truly the best runs. I use this run specifically in very, very, very short yardage. I like to utilize the quarterback in the Minnesota playbook. There's some quarterback runs that are zone and gap based that I love to mix in. I'm just going to go random defense here. Now, because this is an RBP run, what we are going to see out of this is that the really, really important blocks on this are going to be the run side blocks. We have Quentin Nelson lined up against Warren Sapp. We have Jason Peters on the outside with a tight end assisting him, lined up against our edge, Nolan Smith. Our center has no one covering him. And we have a pulling guard from the backside, which is our right guard. So with this, you're going to see that if we want to hold those blocks, we need to have high RBP ratings against a couple of ratings of the defensive linemen. So when it comes to whether or not you're going to get a solid block here on this player, we are utilizing a number of different things, but importantly, the RBK, the master run block rating, and then the sub rating of RBP. And then there's some other things that go into it: strength, weight, and then obviously on defense, they are using the block shed rating, weight, strength, and also play recognition, believe it or not. Play recognition is a new one this year that is very, very big. It's a large portion of whether or not a defensive lineman will shed and where he sheds to. So just being huge, strong, and having high block shed is no longer the way you get off a run block from a defensive perspective. A little tip within the tip. But right here, we see that Quentin Nelson handles his assignment. It's actually a really good double team block here. Our tight end on the left washes down Smith into the inside, and we follow our pulling guard to the outside, who wraps and absolutely lays a monster block on this guy, shocking him, and we're able to run this for a big gain. Now let's go into some of the ratings on the defensive side of the ball to see how this worked out for us, okay? So again, we know that Quentin Nelson, as our left guard, has pretty solid strength. He weighs 330 pounds, and he's got solid run block ratings that we've already discussed of 86 with an 87 run block power. So really, really good. Who was he blocking on the defensive side of the ball? He was blocking Warren Sapp. Now, Warren Sapp, from a play recognition perspective, pretty solid. He's also heavy, but not as heavy as Quentin Nelson. And his block shed rating on this was an 83. So you see right here, he's losing weight. He's losing RBK versus block shed. He's losing the block shed versus the RBP. you saw a pretty good block right there. Also factor in that we had a double team on that. So really, really good rep. Now, again, here, we're just going to continue running this. You're going to see right here, great block there by Quentin Nelson down on the nose tackle right there. We got good penetration by the linebacker there. There was no block on, I believe that was Zach Bond. But if you take a look here, again, this is Kenny Clark one-on-one versus Quentin Nelson. You see that Quentin Nelson nearly washes him out of the play, holds him up perfectly. Look at the block down by Jason Peters on Urlacher. Unfortunately, we just didn't get a good pull right there by Mims, which is likely due to the fact that he is an offensive tackle that I play at guard, which makes him maybe a little bit out of position and less aware of who his target is. This year, I don't know if you guys have paid attention, but there are some more prevalent awareness and play recognition issues with playing players out of position. I'm still in the process of testing, as you can see right now with a tackle at guard, but I do think that there is something to be said for playing guards at guard and tackle at tackle. I didn't normally hold that opinion, but I've been running a lot of pulling guard runs this year, and I've been noticing this trend with this. But in terms of everyone else along the line, I mean, look at this here. Pretty solid. The thing that you definitely notice is that the one block in the back, which was our Jenkins, it was inconsequential because it was away from the run. But you see Jenkins in the back does get beat by kind of a spinning shed move, nothing crazy. But again, look at how prioritizing the RBP rating of my other players, particularly Nelson against a really good nose tackle and Kenny Clark, we stalemate him completely on that play. So again, we'll continue to run this a few times. Look at this, pretty solid. Another thing too with power runs, stay inside the pulling guard if you can. That is the most important thing that people don't realize, is you really want to stay inside of that block at all possible until it gets up to that second level, and then you can bounce it inside or outside. But if you're running this, stay inside that block. Now, again, some fronts, you're just not gonna have success. I'm choosing random defense. If they run blitz, there's gonna be times where that happens. Again, you see right there, kind of the same deal, right? Now, of course, with this, pay attention to the blocks that are one-on-one. You see right here, really, really good block there by Nelson. Pretty solid block there by, I believe, our left tackle down blocking. So pretty solid. I mean, look at this. You get 56 one-on-one with the nose. We at least wash out 71 enough. He actually got beat pretty quickly there, but take a look at 56 against the nose. Take a look at Jenkins in 78, double teaming on the backside. We got enough of a chip out of Olsen. He got blown up by Bond's impact block rating here. Mims does a solid job kicking out here. Now, let's talk about these two blocks, okay? I just got done talking about how there are a few other things that go into pulling guard blocks, all right? This player right here, while he is using the RBP rating associated with a power run or a gap run, because he is pulling, this is also going to utilize a couple of different other ratings that are a little bit less important, but still important if you want to really maximize your results. Those two are going to be the impact block, which is what happens when you have a high-speed collision in the open field, similar to this, and also the lead block rating, which a lot of players only attribute to having value on a fullback for a fullback run. Believe it or not, he is leading on this, so it is important that you guys pay attention to those if you guys want to make your pulling guard blocks even better. But not a bad rep here, all considered. Right here, this is purely impact block. He is using a crackdown block, and you see that Zach Bond destroys him. If we were to compare how this works, this is going to be the impact block rating of Bond, in addition to things like play recognition and block shed, of course, as well too, against the impact block rating of Olsen. So if I were to go all the way down here, this is one of those rare examples in the game where you're going to use the same rating on both sides of the ball. This is also useful for kick returns, by the way, because you're using impact blocks for all those interactions, whether you're covering kicks or blocking kick returns. 84 here for Zach Bond, 76, or rather 79 for Greg Olsen. So you can see right here, when I'm getting crack blocks out of my tight ends, these are more receiving style tight ends, they're not blockers. So expected that we would get blown up in the open field, losing that interaction, all right? Now, I think that you guys pretty well understand how gap-based runs work, the ratings that go into it. Again, we have other styles of gap-based run, power, counter, trap. Those are all going to be power runs, ISO as well. I will show you just for a second what some counter runs look like. I'm not a huge fan of running under center this year, but it can be pretty solid. You just have to be super careful, right? You see right there, Jenkins got absolutely mauled by that guy. So again, and the reason for that is that's a tough down block. Okay, not a huge fan of counters really. You know, if I wanted to run it this direction, yeah, you probably could, but counters use the same ratings as powers. Powers just happen to be better. Now let's get into the zone blocking here. This is, you know, where a lot of people think that the run game has fallen apart this year. Probably partially true, to be honest with you. Inside zones in this game are not great. Okay. The reason I say that is that they just, in general, the backers do a much better job. EA made a very concerted effort to make sure linebackers attack the lanes in a zone-based run. They play very much downhill. So you'll see here how these backers fill. Look at how Bond's first step is forward. They're just quick. They diagnose those gap-based runs so fast. I mean, you look here, look at Bond filling that lane. Now we're getting good blocks on the front side again. Offensive linemen here are using the RBF rating. I am a little bit undersized here in this package. I use what is called a NASCAR package out of the wide, so I play a lot of defensive ends. But if I were to go in and actually sub in some of the bigger body type guys against an inside zone, so like what I'll do here is I'll actually put in, let's put in Kenny Clark, let's put in Warren Sapp here. You'll start to see that those guys are going to handle those blocks maybe a little bit better here. So again, probably try to run this. You know, pretty good block right there by Olsen. A lot of this too is going to come down to like how they're filling the gaps right here. I feel actually pretty confident about the way this is playing right there. Pretty good win by Bond against Olsen in the open field. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Bowers and put him on the backside of this here. So you see kind of a traditional box here. Obviously right here, we're kind of outnumbered as well, 6 versus 5. But again, look at how the backers really try to come downhill. And you see right there, we got that impact block win by our, you know, by our linebacker there. So again, you definitely notice when you run inside zones, these are definitely less effective runs. They play into their gaps very, very quickly. A lot of players will actually use their safeties on top of this. I just noticed that the overall linebacker penetration is so much better against zone runs. And it makes sense. We've spent the last basically 10 years running inside zone. And, but again, if you're looking to maximize the potential for those, RBK plus RBF. And then of course, that brings us to kind of our last zone run, which is our outside zone. These can still be fairly solid, but again, you're going to notice that the defenders underneath in the interior gaps and also the force roll, basically the players that try to, you know, funnel the run back inside are doing a pretty good job. They attack the line. So again, you see how that force defender is, you know, setting that edge and allowing the backer to kind of make the play in space. You know, that's when we run it left. Let's go ahead and run it right. So again, you kind of see the same type of thing here. Good effort. We were able to bust through there on that run. But again, just kind of notice as we run this, look at how the backers are really dictating. You saw that front side backer play on the outside, leverage on that block, and then the backside linebacker took the cutback lane. So it wasn't like I could just, you know, every time veer it up into that lane, but it is much better play by the linebackers. So you really have to watch for like over pursuit here. If you're going to run stretches, try to not just be on this train track mindset where I'm going outside. Really, as you watch this, don't hold turbo and watch that pursuit and try to cut it back. The over pursuit that the defense has in general for shooting zone-based runs can be used against them on outside zones more than inside zones, because you can usually get back 1 or 2 gaps. You know, again, right there, Abdul Carter doing a pretty good job. You know, in this particular case, I need, you know, I need to be able to bend this back into the backside A gap. So you see right there, we can. This is still a valuable run. Stretches are still good. Just think about them as where am I cutting back? Don't think about I'm going to go outside every single time. If you kind of treat it like we had for the last few years, you'll be disappointed with the number of sheds that occur. And then obviously the linebackers really fill. Basically, linebackers are going to get front side and you're going to have to veer it back. That's how you should run outside zone in this game. So there you guys go. A couple of my favorite tips. I'm going to be giving you guys more running the ball tips here. I know a lot of people are struggling to run the ball. I know running the ball is boring, but it is important. You have to be able to finish games, finish drives, and finish with a lead. Okay? I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.